The great crystal dome of the Valari capital world gleamed under twin suns. Inside the massive hall, thousands of alien warriors cheered as holographic displays showed their latest victory. The Andorian system was now nothing but floating debris and dead planets. Admiral Kethvar stood tall on the command platform. His forearms spread wide as he addressed the High Council. His voice boomed through the hall like thunder. 164 victories, he roared. 164 worlds have fallen before our might. The Andorians thought their energy shields would protect them. They were wrong. Their cities burned, their fleets scattered like leaves in a storm. The crowd cheered louder. Kethvar's black eyes gleamed with pride. He had never known defeat. None of them had. For 300 years, the Valari Empire had crushed every enemy. Their war doctrine was simple and brutal. Bring overwhelming force, destroy everything, leave nothing alive. The galaxy trembles at our name, Kethvar continued. We are death itself, sailing between the stars. In the front row, Sub-Commander Radok listened but felt uneasy. Something bothered him about their next target, a small blue world called Earth. The intelligence report said it was home to a young species called humans. They had primitive weapons and no real space fleet. So why did they need the entire First Armada to conquer one weak planet? But Radok kept his doubts to himself. Admiral Kethvar did not like questions. Far across the galaxy, on the third planet of a yellow star, Defense Minister Dongsu walked through the underground halls of Seoul's secret command center. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows on the concrete walls. His footsteps echoed in the silence. He stopped at a heavy metal door marked with Korean symbols. Inside, Admiral Heejin stood before a wall of monitors showing space around Earth. Her short black hair was pulled back in a tight bun. Her dark eyes studied the incoming threat. They're really coming, Dongsu said quietly. Heejin nodded. 847 ships, the largest fleet they've ever assembled. For us? Dongsu's voice carried a hint of dark humor. They must really want to make sure we're dead. They have no idea what they're walking into, Heejin replied. Her voice was calm, but her eyes held a cold fire. How long until Dr. Taeho's team finishes the final tests? 2 hours. Project Silent Storm is almost ready. Above ground in Seoul, life continued as normal. People walked to work, children played in parks, and vendors sold food from street carts. None of them seemed worried about the alien fleet approaching their world, but looks could be deceiving. Dr. Taeho stood in his underground laboratory beneath the Han River. Banks of computers hummed around him. On the main screen, complex equations scrolled past in glowing green text. He adjusted his thick glasses and smiled. After 20 years of secret work, humanity's greatest weapon was finally complete. Sir, his assistant called out. The quantum field generators are stable. All systems show green. Taeho nodded. Excellent. Begin the final calibration sequence. Across the city, Captain Boram climbed aboard her stealth frigate. The ship's name, Dokdo, was painted in small Korean characters near the airlock. To enemy sensors, the vessel was invisible. Its hull absorbed radar and heat signatures. Its engines produced no detectable emissions. Status report, Boram ordered as she reached the bridge. All systems operational, Captain, her first officer replied. The quantum displacement drive is ready for combat deployment. Boram smiled grimly. The displacement drive was humanity's secret advantage. It could move ships instantly across vast distances without using hyperspace lanes. The Valari would never see them coming. Meanwhile, on the Valari flagship Dominion's edge, Admiral Kethvar studied holographic star charts. Earth appeared as a small blue dot surrounded by tactical data. The planet had one natural satellite, several space stations, and what appeared to be early warning satellites scattered throughout the system. Pathetic, he muttered. Their entire defense network is centuries behind ours. Admiral, Sub-Commander Radok approached carefully. Perhaps we should send scouts first. Learn more about scouts? Kethvar's voice turned dangerous. We are the Valari Empire. We do not scout prey. We destroy it. Raydock bowed his head. Of course, Admiral. Forgive my suggestion. The humans will serve as an example, Kethavar declared. When other species see what happened to Earth, they will surrender before we even arrive at their worlds. This will be our most glorious victory yet. Back on Earth, the secret preparations continued. In the countryside of Jeju Island, farmer Jin Woo walked through his rice fields. The green stalks swayed in the ocean breeze. To any observer, he was just a simple farmer tending his crops. But 50 meters below his fields, massive defense installations waited in hidden chambers. In the port city of Busan, engineer So Young made final adjustments to what looked like communication towers along the coast. Tourists took photos near them, not knowing they were actually weapon emplacements capable of striking targets in orbit. In Daegu, teacher Woo Jin led his students through their monthly earthquake drill. The children crawled under their desks and stayed quiet just as they had practiced. But this wasn't really an earthquake drill, it was preparation for invasion. Each school had been built with hidden shelters and supply caches. The Volari fleet began its final approach to hyperspace jump coordinates. 847 ships of war moved in perfect formation. Massive dreadnoughts led the way, their hulls bristling with plasma cannons and missile tubes. Smaller destroyers and cruisers surrounded them in protective screens. All ships report ready for hyperspace, the communications officer announced on the flagship bridge. Admiral Kethvar raised one of his four arms. Execute jump. Destination, the Sol System. Today, we claim our 165th victory. The fleet disappeared in flashes of twisted light, racing across the galaxy toward Earth. In his orbital command station above Earth's moon, Commander Seok Jin watched his sensors. The station looked like a simple research facility to any outside observer. Its real purpose was much different. Contact, his sensor operator called out. Hyperspace disturbance detected at the edge of the system. They're coming. Seok Jin opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Hyejin, this is Sejong Station. The guests have arrived. On the planet below, Admiral Hyejin received the message in her underground command center. Around her, hundreds of technicians worked at their stations. Status boards showed green lights across the globe. Every hidden weapon was ready. Every secret base was armed and waiting. Acknowledged, Sejong Station, she replied. All units, this is command. Execute Protocol 7, the trap is set. Across Earth, millions of hidden defensive positions came online. What looked like ordinary cities, farms, and forests were actually the most sophisticated military network ever created. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, ever since they first detected alien signals from deep space. The Volari thought they were hunting sheep. They were about to discover they had cornered wolves instead. Admiral Kethvar's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the outer edge of the Sol system. Immediately, their sensors began scanning for threats. They detected the primitive satellites, a few small space stations, and what appeared to be mining operations in the asteroid belt. No significant military presence, the tactical officer reported. This should be easy, Admiral. Kethvar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Of course it will be easy. Begin broadcasting the standard ultimatum. Let them know their doom approaches. Message raced toward Earth at the speed of light. In multiple languages, it carried the same simple demand. Surrender or face extinction. On Earth, President Changmin received the alien ultimatum in his office at the Blue House. He read it carefully, then set it aside. Outside his window, Seoul continued its normal daily routine. But beneath the city, and beneath every city on Earth, the real Seoul was waking up. The time for hiding was almost over. The Volari Armada moved through the outer solar system, like a school of metal sharks. Their formation was perfect, tested through 164 victories. Admiral Kethvar stood on his flagship bridge, watching the tactical display, with satisfaction. Distance to target planet, he asked. 18 hours at current speed, Admiral, replied the navigation officer. Sub-Commander Raydock studied his own displays. Something still felt wrong about this mission. The humans had made no attempt to communicate after receiving their ultimatum. Most species either surrendered immediately or sent desperate pleas for mercy, but Earth remained silent. "Admiral," Raydoc said carefully, "should we be concerned about their lack of response?" Kethvar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "Concerned? They are probably too terrified to speak. Or perhaps they are preparing their surrender. It matters little. But, sir, we brought our entire first Armada. 800 ships to destroy one primitive world. Does that not seem excessive?" The Admiral's 4 eyes fixed on Raydoc with cold intensity. "Are you questioning my tactical judgment, Sub-Commander?" "No, Admiral, of course not." "Good. This display of overwhelming force will send a message to every species in this galaxy. When they see what happened to Earth, they will surrender without firing a shot. We will conquer 1,000 worlds without losing a single ship." On Earth, dawn was breaking over the Pacific Ocean. The morning looked peaceful and ordinary. Fishing boats left harbors along the Korean coast. Office workers crowded onto subway trains in Seoul. Children walked to school with backpacks bouncing on their shoulders. But this ordinary morning was carefully planned. Every person, every vehicle, every building played a role in humanity's greatest deception. On Jeju Island, Farmer Jinwoo walked through his rice paddies as he did every morning. The green stalks rustled in the ocean breeze. Birds sang from the trees along the field edges. Jinwoo checked the water levels and inspected the growing plants. To anyone watching, he was just a simple farmer doing simple work. 50 meters beneath his feet, the massive guns of Defense Platform 7 waited in their hidden chambers. Each cannon was larger than a city bus, capable of firing projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The rice fields provided perfect camouflage. No orbital sensor could detect the installation below. Jinwoo knelt beside an irrigation channel and made a small adjustment to the water flow. As he did, he pressed his thumb against a hidden sensor. Deep underground, computers registered his biometric signature. All systems showed green. Platform 7 was ready for war. In Busan, engineer So Young climbed a maintenance ladder to the top of Communications Tower 47. The tower rose 30 meters above the harbor, painted white with red warning lights for aircraft. Tourists often photographed it because of the beautiful ocean view from its base. So Young opened an access panel and checked the electronic systems inside. To any observer, she was maintaining radio equipment. In reality, she was performing final tests on one of Earth's most powerful orbital defense weapons. The tower contained a quantum pulse cannon capable of punching through the armor of any known spacecraft. "Tower 47 operational," she whispered into her throat microphone. "All targeting systems online." "Copy that," came the reply in her earpiece. Tower 47 confirmed ready. Along the Busan waterfront, 47 more towers waited with the same hidden purpose. Each one looked identical to civilian communication equipment. Together, they formed a defensive network that could destroy an entire fleet. In Daegu, teacher Woo Jin was conducting morning classes at Dongsan Elementary School. 28 children sat at their desks, practicing their Korean characters. The classroom was bright and cheerful, with colorful posters on the walls and plants by the windows. "Today we will practice our emergency drill," Woo Jin announced. The children immediately responded. They crawled under their desks, covered their heads with their hands, and remained perfectly silent. Woo Jin walked between the desks, checking their positions. "Very good," he said softly. "Remember to stay quiet and stay low." The drill looked like earthquake preparation, but the children were actually practicing for invasion protocol. Each school in Korea had been built with hidden shelters stocked with food, water, and medical supplies. The children could survive for weeks underground if necessary. More importantly, every school sat directly above a military installation. Dongsan Elementary was built over Firebase Echo, one of 50 artillery positions surrounding Daegu. When the time came, the playground would split open to reveal missile launchers and railguns. Woo Jin looked at his students with pride. They were so young, but they were already part of humanity's defense. Every person on Earth had a role to play. In space, The Valari fleet continued its approach. They passed through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, their sensors sweeping for threats. The asteroids showed signs of human mining operations, robotic equipment, excavation sites, and ore processing facilities. Primitive resource extraction, commented the tactical officer aboard Dominion's Edge. Their technology level is even lower than our initial estimates. Admiral Kethvar nodded. Excellent. This will be over quickly. But Sub-Commander Radok was studying the sensor readings more carefully. Something about the mining operations bothered him. The equipment was arranged in strange patterns. The excavation sites seemed too large for the amount of ore being processed. And why were there so many fusion reactors powering what should be simple mining operations? He started to voice his concerns, then stopped. Admiral Kethvar had already made it clear he did not want to hear doubts or questions. On Earth's moon, Commander Seok Jin monitored the approaching fleet from Sejong Research Station. The station looked exactly like what it claimed to be, a scientific facility studying lunar geology. Solar panels powered its laboratories. Communication dishes pointed toward Earth and deep space. Research vehicles rolled across the lunar surface collecting samples. But Sejong Station had another purpose. Hidden beneath its innocent exterior were some of the most advanced sensors in human space. Commander Seok Jin could track every ship in the Valari fleet. He knew their exact positions, their weapon capabilities, and their likely battle tactics. Sensor sweep complete, reported his chief technician. All enemy vessels tagged and catalogued. Excellent work, Seok Jin replied. Begin transmission of targeting data to all defense platforms. The data stream raced to Earth at light speed. In underground command centers across the planet, holographic displays showed the positions of every Valari ship. Admiral Haijin studied the formation from her command post beneath Seoul. They're following standard attack doctrine, she observed. Heavy ships in the center, escorts in defensive screens, support vessels at the rear. Just as we predicted, agreed her tactical officer. They haven't changed their tactics in 3 centuries. Why should they? Heejin smiled grimly. It's worked 164 times. They have no reason to suspect it won't work again. But humanity had studied those 164 victories very carefully. Every battle had been analyzed. Every tactic had been noted. The Valari were predictable because they had never faced real opposition. In the Pacific Ocean, the submarine turtle ship moved silently through the deep waters off the coast of Japan. Captain Sang-hoon stood in the control room, watching his sonar displays. His submarine looked like a research vessel from the surface, but beneath its hull were weapons that no enemy would expect. Depth charges armed and ready, Captain, reported his weapons officer. Good. Maintain position and await orders. The depth charges were not conventional explosives. They were quantum mines that could create localized space-time distortions. When the Valari fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, they would find the ocean itself turned into a weapon. Above the clouds, Lieutenant Na-ri guided her stealth fighter through a routine patrol. Her aircraft was completely invisible to radar, heat, sensors, and visual observation. The Valari had no idea that dozens of human ships were already surrounding their fleet. All stealth units in position, she reported over secure communications. Enemy formation mapped and tracked. Copy that, Ghost Squadron, came the reply. Maintain surveillance and prepare for strike operations. The Valari continued their approach, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had brought nearly 1,000 ships to destroy one primitive planet. Their victory was assured. On Earth, President Chang Min prepared for the most important speech of his life. In a few hours, he would address the Valari ultimatum. The entire planet would hear his response. But more importantly, the aliens would hear it too. They expected him to beg for mercy. They expected humanity to surrender without a fight. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. Dr. Tejo made final adjustments to Project Silent Storm in his hidden laboratory. 20 years of research were about to be put to the ultimate test. The quantum cascade generators hummed with barely contained power. When activated, they would turn the space around Earth into a graveyard. As the sun set over Korea, millions of people went about their evening routines. They cooked dinner, helped children with homework, and prepared for bed. But beneath every city and every forest, under every farm, humanity's true strength waited to be revealed. The Volari thought they were approaching a helpless world. They had no idea they were flying. The Volari Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system with a flash of twisted light that briefly outshone nearby stars. 847 ships of war materialized in perfect formation, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon arrays and sensor equipment. Admiral Kethavar stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship, all 4 arms crossed over his chest. The tactical display showed their target, a small blue world orbiting a yellow star. Exactly as their intelligence had predicted, the planet appeared defenseless. "Sensor sweep complete, Admiral," reported the tactical officer. "We detect several primitive satellites, 3 space stations of basic construction, and what appears to be mining operations throughout the system. Military threats? None detected, sir. Their most advanced weapons appear to be simple nuclear devices. Their space fleet consists of a few small research vessels and cargo haulers." Kethavar's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Even more pathetic than expected. Communications. Broadcast our standard ultimatum." The message raced across space at light speed. In dozens of Earth languages, it carried the same brutal demand that had been heard by 164 previous civilizations. "People of Earth, you have been chosen for conquest by the Volari Empire. You have 1 planetary rotation. To surrender unconditionally. Lay down all weapons. Evacuate all military installations. Prepare your population for processing. Any resistance will result in the complete extinction of your species. You have been warned." On Earth, the message was received simultaneously by every government, every news agency, and every communications network on the planet. Within minutes, it was being broadcast on television, radio, and internet channels worldwide. In Seoul, President Chang Min sat in his office at the Blue House, reading the translated ultimatum. Through his window, he could see the city continuing its normal routine. Traffic flowed along the streets. People walked on sidewalks. Children played in nearby parks. None of them seemed panicked. None of them seemed afraid. Chang Min's secretary entered the office. "Mr. President, the world leaders are requesting an emergency conference call." "Tell them I'll address their concerns in my public response," Chang Min replied calmly. "Schedule a broadcast for 1 hour from now." "Yes, sir." "And sir?" "Admiral Hyejin requests permission to proceed with Protocol 7. Chang Min nodded slowly. "Granted. Tell the Admiral that all restrictions are now lifted." Deep beneath Seoul, Admiral Hyejin received the President's authorization in her command center. Around her, hundreds of technicians worked at monitoring stations. Status boards showed the positions of the alien fleet, updated in real time by hidden sensors throughout the solar system. "All stations, this is command," Hyejin announced over the global communications network. "We have presidential authorization. Execute Protocol 7 immediately." Across the planet, the message was received by thousands of secret installations. In hidden bunkers beneath major cities, weapon systems came online. Under seemingly innocent farms and forests, missile silos opened their covers for the first time in decades. Along every coastline, defense platforms raised their targeting arrays above ground level. But everything remained hidden. To orbital observation, Earth still looked like a peaceful, defenseless world. Lieutenant Nari piloted her stealth fighter through the vacuum between Earth and Mars. Her ship was completely invisible to enemy sensors, using technology the Volari had never encountered. She was one of 50 human pilots already positioned throughout the solar system. "Ghost leader to all ghost units," she transmitted on a secure frequency. "Enemy fleet has entered the system. Begin close surveillance operations." Her fighters moved silently through space, approaching the Volari formation from multiple directions. Advanced cameras and sensors recorded every detail of the alien ships. The data was transmitted instantly to Earth's defense network. On the Volari flagship, Sub-Commander Raydock studied the sensor readings with growing concern. Their instruments showed a quiet, primitive system, but something felt wrong. The humans' response to their ultimatum was too calm, too organized. "Admiral, he said carefully. The planet's communications networks are still functioning normally. Usually, civilizations panic when they receive our ultimatum. There should be chaos, mass evacuations, desperate attempts to hide their leaders. Admiral Kethavar barely glanced at the reports. Perhaps they are too primitive to understand the severity of their situation, or perhaps they are paralyzed by fear. Either way, it changes nothing. But sir, look at these traffic patterns. Their transportation networks are operating at normal levels. Their power grids show no signs of disruption. This doesn't match the behavior we've seen from previous conquests. Sub-Commander, Kethavar's voice carried a warning tone. Are you suggesting that a primitive species poses some kind of threat to the Valari Empire? Raydog quickly backed down. No, Admiral, of course not. Then stop wasting time on pointless analysis and prepare for the attack. In the asteroid belt, the Valari fleet passed through what appeared to be simple mining operations. Robotic extractors worked on asteroid surfaces, gathering raw materials. Processing stations refined ore into useful metals. Transport ships carried cargo between facilities. But Sub-Commander Raydog noticed something strange about the mining equipment. The machines were much larger than necessary for civilian operations. The power signatures were enormous, far beyond what simple ore processing would require. And why were there so many fusion reactors in a basic mining operation? He started to mention his observations, then decided against it. Admiral Kethavar had made his opinion clear. On Earth, farmer Jinwoo worked in his rice fields on Jeju Island, just as he did every day. The green stalks swayed in the ocean breeze. To any observer, including orbital sensors, he appeared to be a simple agricultural worker tending his crops. But as Jinwoo walked between the rice paddies, he was actually conducting a final inspection of Defense Platform 7. Every step he took was precisely planned. When he knelt to check the irrigation channels, he was verifying that the platform's massive guns could extend through the camouflaged openings in the ground. Platform 7 status report, he whispered into a microphone hidden in his collar. All systems operational, came the reply through his earpiece. Quantum cannons charged and ready. Targeting computers online. Ammunition reserves at maximum capacity. Jinwoo smiled as he stood up and brushed dirt from his hands. To the aliens watching from space, he was just a farmer working his land. They had no idea that beneath his feet waited weapons capable of destroying their largest battleships. In Busan, engineer So Young completed her daily maintenance rounds at the communications towers along the waterfront. Each tower looked exactly like civilian infrastructure, broadcasting equipment for radio, television, and cellular communications. But hidden within each tower were quantum pulse cannons that could strike targets in orbit with devastating precision. As So Young checked the systems, she was actually preparing humanity's coastal defenses for battle. Tower 47 ready for combat operations, she reported through her secure communicator. Copy that, came the reply. All coastal towers report ready. Status. The harbor defense network is fully operational. President Chang Min appeared on television screens worldwide exactly 1 hour after receiving the Valari ultimatum. He sat at his desk in the Blue House, looking directly into the camera. His expression was calm and dignified. My fellow humans, he began. We have received a message from visitors who call themselves the Valari Empire. They have demanded our surrender and threatened our extinction if we refuse to submit. Chang Min paused, allowing his words to sink. And I want to address their ultimatum directly. We are a young species, it is true. We have not traveled far among the stars. We have not conquered other worlds or built vast empires. But we are not defenseless, and we are not afraid. On the Valari flagship, Admiral Kethavar watched the human leader's speech with amusement. Look at this primitive fool. He actually thinks he can defy us. To the Valari watching this transmission, President Chang Min continued, I offer you this response. Earth is our home. We have lived here for thousands of years. We have built our civilization through hard work, cooperation, and the desire to protect what we love. You may have conquered 164 worlds, but you will not conquer the 165th. Kethavar laughed openly. Their leader is insane. Does he not understand the size of our fleet? "We do not seek war with you," Changmin said. "But if you bring war to us, you will discover that humanity is not as helpless as you believe. This is our only warning. Turn your ships around and leave our system. Do not make the mistake of underestimating us." The transmission ended with Changmin sitting quietly at his desk, looking directly at the camera with steady, determined eyes. Admiral Kethvar turned to his bridge crew. "Did you hear that? They think they can warn us. A species that has barely left their own planet thinks they can threaten the Valari Empire." The bridge officers laughed along with their commander. The idea that these primitive humans could pose any threat was absurd. "Communications," Kethvar ordered. "Send a reply to their ridiculous leader." The Valari response was briefing. The Valari war fleet crossed the orbit of Mars with their weapon systems charging, and their confidence absolute. Admiral Kethvar stood on his main ship control room, watching the battle screen as Earth grew larger on the screens. The primitive, blue world looked exactly as helpless as their intelligence had predicted. "Distance to target?" he asked. 4 hours to best firing position, Admiral," replied the navigation officer. "Excellent. Begin attack formation. Heavy ships to the front, escorts and defensive screens. We will show these humans what happens when they refuse the Valari Empire." The alien fleet shifted into their standard attack pattern. It was the same formation that had brought them victory 164 times before. Massive battleships moved to the front lines. Their hulls were covered with plasma cannons and missile tubes. Smaller destroyers and cruisers took positions around the sides and rear. Sub-Commander Raydock watched his sensor displays with growing unease. The asteroid mining operations they had passed earlier still bothered him. Something about the energy signatures did not match civilian equipment. And now as they approached Mars, he was detecting unusual readings from what should be empty space. "Admiral," he said carefully, "I am seeing some strange sensor echoes near the asteroid belt. The signatures do not match any known natural phenomena." Kethvar did not even look up from his command console. "Space debris, magnetic anomalies. This system is primitive and poorly mapped. Focus on the target, Sub-Commander." But Raydock's concerns were about to prove right in the most dramatic way possible. On the hidden asteroid base called Mining Station Alpha, Captain Jae-sung watched the Valari fleet approach on his tactical display. The installation looked exactly like a civilian mining operation from the outside. It had robot machines, ore processors, and storage facilities scattered across the asteroid's surface. In reality, it was one of 50 military installations hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Each mining operation was actually a fortress armed with kinetic weapons that could speed up projectiles to very fast speeds. "Enemy fleet is entering the kill zone," reported his tactical officer. Jae-sung activated his communication system. He connected to all 50 asteroid bases at the same time. "All mining stations, this is Alpha Base. Execute Operation Meteor Storm. Fire when ready." Across the asteroid belt, installations that had appeared to be simple mining operations suddenly showed their true purpose. Electromagnetic launchers that had been disguised as ore conveyors turned toward the alien fleet. Massive projectiles loaded into weapons that had been hidden as storage silos. "Firing," announced the weapons officer on Alpha Base. The first attack launched from all 50 asteroid installations at the same time. Solid metal projectiles, each one the size of a small building, sped up to enormous velocities. They struck the outer edge of the Valari fleet with the force of nuclear weapons. The alien escort ships never knew what hit them. One moment they were cruising in perfect formation. The next moment they were expanding clouds of superheated plasma and twisted metal. What was that? Admiral Kethvar roared as his main ship shook from nearby explosions. "Unknown weapons fire from the asteroid belt," the tactical officer shouted over alarms. "We have lost 17 escort vessels." "Impossible. Those were mining operations. They are firing again." The second attack tore through the Valari formation. More ships died in balls of fire as kinetic projectiles punched through their armor like it was paper. The aliens had designed their defenses to stop energy weapons and missiles, not solid objects moving at very fast speeds. "Return fire," Kethvar ordered. Destroy those installations. But the human asteroid bases were not easy targets. They were buried deep inside solid rock, with only their weapon ports exposed. The Volari plasma cannons and missiles had little effect on targets hidden within asteroids. Meanwhile, the third and fourth attacks were already coming. On Earth, Admiral Hai Jin watched the battle begin from her command center under Seoul. The space display showed Volari ships dying in bright flashes as humanity's first trap claimed its victims. Asteroid defenses are performing as expected, reported her tactical officer. Enemy fleet has lost 43 ships so far. Good, but that is just the opening move, Hai Jin replied. Signal all units. Execute Phase 2. The order went out across the solar system to dozens of hidden installations and stealth ships. Humanity's real defense was just beginning. Admiral, Kethvar struggled to regain control of his fleet as more ships died around him. The asteroid belt had become a killing field, but his remaining ships were finally moving out of range of the kinetic weapons. Status report, he demanded. We have lost 61 ships total, came the grim reply. All from the outer escort formations. The main battle fleet is intact. Those humans will pay for this treachery, Kethvar snarled. All ships maximum speed toward Earth. We will turn their planet into molten rock. But as the Volari fleet surged toward Earth, they were walking deeper into humanity's carefully planned trap. Lieutenant Nari and her stealth fighter squadron had been shadowing the alien fleet for hours. They were completely invisible to their sensors. Now, as the surviving Volari ships raced toward Earth, she received new orders. Go Squadron, this is Earth Command. Execute Operation Phantom Strike. You are weapons free. Copy that command. Ghost Squadron attacking. Nari's fighter was unlike anything the Volari had ever seen. Its hull was coated with materials that absorbed all forms of electromagnetic radiation. Its engines produced no heat signature. Its weapons used focused gravitational fields that were undetectable until the moment they fired. The stealth fighters struck the Volari fleet from every direction at the same time. Ships that thought they were safely protected inside the formation suddenly found their hulls torn open by weapons they could not see coming. Point defense systems fired randomly into empty space, trying to hit enemies they could not detect. Where are they? Screamed the tactical officer on the Volari main ship. I cannot get a lock on anything. Keep firing, Kethvar ordered. Hit everything that moves. But the human fighters were too fast, too stealthy, and too well coordinated. They struck like ghosts and vanished before the aliens could respond. More Volari ships died, their crews never seeing their attackers. On the moon, Commander Seok Jin prepared to reveal the true purpose of Sejong Research Station. What the Volari thought was a simple science facility was actually one of the most heavily armed installations in the solar system. Lunar defense batteries coming online, he announced to his crew. Target the enemy main ship, hidden launch silos, opened across the lunar surface. Weapons that had been concealed for decades emerged from underground chambers. The moon itself was a fortress, bristling with guns that could strike targets anywhere in the inner solar system. Firing, announced the weapons officer. A stream of projectiles launched from the moon toward the Volari main ship. Each one was guided by targeting computers that could track individual ships across millions of kilometers. Admiral Kethvar felt his ship shake as the first lunar projectiles struck his shields. Where did that come from? The moon, sir. It is. Armed. What? That is impossible. It is just a dead rock. But impossible or not, more projectiles were already coming. The humans had turned their natural satellite into a weapon. Dr. Taeho watched the battle from his laboratory under Seoul, waiting for the perfect moment to activate Project Silent Storm. The quantum field generators hummed with barely contained energy. When activated, they would create a zone of twisted spacetime that would trap the remaining Volari ships in a gravitational maze. Sir, his assistant reported, enemy fleet is approaching optimal position. Range, 2 million kilometers, and closing. Not yet, Taeho replied quietly. Let them come closer. We want them all inside the field when we activate it. On the Volari main ship, Sub-Commander Ray Doc finally understood the scope of the trap they had flown into. This was not a primitive world defended by simple weapons. This was a military installation disguised as a planet. "Admiral," he said urgently, "we need to withdraw. This entire system is a fortress. They have been preparing for us." But Kethvar was beyond reason now. Too many of his ships had been destroyed. Too much Valari. Pride was at stake. "We do not retreat," he roared. "All ships, full attack, destroy that planet, kill every human on it." The surviving Valari fleet, still numbering over 700 ships, surged toward Earth with their weapons charging and their crews screaming for revenge. They had no idea they were racing toward the most devastating trap humanity had prepared. Captain Boram watched from her stealth ship Docto as the alien fleet approached Earth's gravity well. Her ship was invisible, hiding among the enemy formation like a shark swimming with dolphins. The quantum displacement drive was charged and ready. "All displacement ships report ready," she transmitted on the secure frequency. "Copy that, Docto," came Admiral Hyejin's reply. "Execute displacement maneuver on my mark." Boram smiled grimly. The Valari were about to discover that space itself could be turned into a weapon. As the alien fleet entered Earth's outer gravity well, Farmer Jinwoo finished his work in the rice fields and walked to his farmhouse. To space observers, he was just going inside for dinner. In reality, he was taking position at the control station for Defense Platform 7, Engineer So-Yun. The moment the Valari fleet crossed into Earth's gravity well, the planet showed its true nature. What had looked like a peaceful world of cities, farms, and forests suddenly changed into the most advanced weapons platform ever built. General Junhee stood in her command center deep under Mount Baekdu. She watched displays that showed every human installation across the globe. For 50 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. Every building, every road, every seemingly innocent structure had been designed with one purpose: to defend their world against alien invasion. "All planetary defense networks report ready," announced her operations officer. "Execute Operation Fortress Earth," Junhee commanded. "Show them what humanity can do." Across the planet, the deception ended in a spectacular display of military engineering. In Seoul, the glass towers of the business district split open to reveal massive space cannons. The Han River bridges moved back to expose missile launchers that had been hidden under the water. The subway tunnels became rapid transit systems for ammunition and supplies. Similar changes occurred in every major city. Tokyo's skyscrapers unfolded like mechanical flowers, showing weapon arrays. The London Eye was actually a giant targeting sensor. The Eiffel Tower extended sections that had been concealed for decades, becoming a communications relay for coordinating global defense. But it was in Korea where the deception was most complete. Farmer Jinwoo went down into Defense Platform 7 through a concealed elevator in his farmhouse. The platform's control room was a marvel of military technology. Floating displays showed the approaching Valari fleet in perfect detail. Targeting computers calculated firing solutions with inhuman precision. "Platform 7 online," Jinwoo announced. His farmer's clothes were replaced by a military uniform, quantum cannons charging to full power. Above him, his rice fields began to move. What had looked like irrigation channels were actually the barrel housings for weapons larger than battleships. The green rice plants were holographic camouflage that had fooled even close space inspection. Similar revelations occurred at thousands of locations across Korea. Every farm, every forest, every mountain contained hidden military installations. The entire country was a fortress disguised as peaceful countryside. In Busan, Engineer So-Young took her position at the central fire control station. The 48 communication towers along the waterfront revealed their true purpose as their civilian facades moved back. Under each white tower was a quantum pulse cannon that could punch holes through the armor of the largest alien ships. "Coastal Defense Network Alpha online," So-Young reported. "All towers ready to fire." "Target the enemy heavy cruisers," came the order from Seoul Command. "Fire when ready." So-Young's fingers moved across her control panel with practiced precision. Firing. 48 beams of concentrated energy shot up from Busan Harbor toward the Valari fleet. Each beam was invisible until it struck its target. Then the alien ships erupted in brilliant explosions as their hulls were torn apart at the molecular level. Admiral Kethvar watched in horror as his fleet died around him. Ships that had survived hundreds of battles were being destroyed by weapons he had never seen before. The humans were not using conventional plasma or missile technology. These were entirely new forms of warfare. "Status report," he screamed over, the alarms filling his control room. "We have lost over 200 ships," came the panicked reply. "Their weapons are cutting through our shields like they do not exist." "How is this possible?" "These are primitives." Sub-Commander Raydock, his forearms working frantically at his console, finally understood the magnitude of their mistake. "Admiral, they have been planning this for decades, maybe centuries. Their entire civilization is a military installation." On Earth, Teacher Wu Jin activated the hidden systems under Dongsan Elementary School. The playground split open with a rumble of moving concrete, revealing Firebase Echo. Missile launchers rose from concealed silos. Rail guns extended from underground chambers. The school's basement became a tactical command center coordinating the defense of the entire Daegu region. "Firebase Echo operational," Wu Jin announced. "All students safely evacuated to underground shelters." This scene repeated across the planet. Every school, every hospital, every civilian structure had been built over military installations. Humanity had turned their entire world into a weapon while maintaining the appearance of peaceful civilization. In space, Captain Boram activated the quantum displacement drive on her stealth ship Docto. The technology was humanity's greatest secret. It was the ability to move through space instantly without using hyperspace lanes. "All displacement ships, execute, Phase 3, she ordered. 50 stealth vessels that had been hiding throughout the Valari formation suddenly revealed themselves by opening fire, but these were not ordinary attacks. The quantum displacement drives allowed the human ships to appear inside the alien formation, fire devastating attacks, then vanish to new positions before the enemy could respond. The Valari fleet was designed to fight enemies that approached from predictable directions. They found themselves under attack from all sides at the same time. Ships would be flying in formation one moment, then erupting in flames as human vessels materialized inside their defensive screens. "They are inside our formation," shouted the Valari tactical officer. "How are they doing that?" Admiral Kethavar had no answer. His species had conquered the galaxy using overwhelming firepower and superior numbers. They had never faced an enemy that could bend the laws of physics themselves. Dr. Tae-ho watched the battle from his laboratory, waiting for the perfect moment to deploy Project Silent Storm. The quantum field generators were charged to maximum capacity. When activated, they would create a zone of twisted spacetime that would trap the remaining alien ships in a gravitational maze. "Enemy fleet density is optimal," his assistant reported. 731 ships clustered within the target zone. "Activate Silent Storm," Dr. Tae-ho ordered quietly. Hidden installations across Earth's surface and throughout the solar system began generating quantum fields that intersected and reinforced each other. Space itself began to bend around the Yondop Valari fleet, creating invisible barriers and gravitational problems. Suddenly, Valari ships found themselves unable to maneuver. Their engines worked normally, but space had become like thick honey around them. Ships that tried to retreat found themselves moving in circles. Vessels that attempted to advance discovered they were actually flying backward. "What is happening to our navigation systems?" Admiral Kethavar demanded. "It is not our systems, sir," came the terrified reply. "It is space itself. They have somehow altered the local gravitational field." Major Kyung-ho commanded the asteroid fortress at Ceres. He revealed its true nature as the largest human military installation outside Earth orbit. What had looked like mining equipment was actually a shipyard that had been building warships, in secret for decades. "Launch all attack squadrons," he ordered. Hangar doors opened across the asteroid's surface, releasing swarms of human fighters that had been built in absolute secrecy. Each fighter was equipped with weapons that could destroy ships 100 times their size. Lieutenant Nari led her squadron in a devastating attack on the trapped Valari fleet. The alien ships could not maneuver effectively due to the quantum field distortions. They became sitting targets for humanity's most advanced weapons. "Ghost leader to all units," she transmitted. "Enemy fleet is trapped and helpless. Execute." Maximum firepower protocols. The human fighters attacked with surgical precision. Each shot was calculated to cause maximum damage with minimum ammunition expenditure. The Volari had brought overwhelming numbers, but humanity had brought overwhelming intelligence. In the Pacific Ocean, Captain Sang-hoon brought his submarine turtle ship to the surface. The vessel's civilian research disguise fell away to reveal weapons that no enemy would expect from an ocean-bound platform. Atmospheric interceptors ready, his weapons officer reported. Fire all tubes. Missiles launched from the submarine toward targets in orbit. But these were not conventional weapons. They were quantum mines that could create localized space-time distortions. When they reached the Volari fleet, they would turn the vacuum of space itself into a weapon. The mines detonated throughout the alien formation. Each one created a small black hole that lasted for just microseconds, long enough to tear apart any ship caught in its gravitational field. Sergeant Hyun-woo operated the massive orbital railgun disguised as Seoul's space elevator. The structure had provided cheap access to orbit for civilian purposes, but its true function was as a weapon that could accelerate projectiles to any velocity required. Target the enemy main ship, came the order from General Yoon-hee. Main ship targeted and locked, Hyun-woo confirmed. Firing. A projectile the size of a telephone pole accelerated up the space elevator at incredible velocity. When it struck Admiral Cathvar's main ship, it punched through the ship from front to back, venting atmosphere and causing catastrophic structural failure. The Volari main ship began breaking apart, its massive hull cracking like an eggshell. Admiral Cathvar found himself in a damaged control room with half his crew dead or dying. The proud warrior who had never known defeat was watching his entire fleet destroyed by enemies he had dismissed as primitives. "Sub-Commander," he gasped to Raydock, "signal the retreat." All ship in less than 4 hours, the most powerful fleet in Volari history had been reduced to floating wreckage and expanding clouds of plasma. Of the 847 ships that had entered the Sol system with such confidence, only 37 remained intact. And those were trapped, powerless, and surrounded by human forces. Admiral Cathvar lay dying on the control room of his shattered main ship. His 4 arms were crushed under fallen debris. Around him, the few surviving crew members stared in shock at what had become of their mighty war fleet. Through the cracked viewports, they could see human ships materializing out of nowhere. Sleek, vessels that moved like hunting sharks through the debris field. Sub-Commander Raydock had blood seeping from a head wound. He managed to reach the emergency communications array. "Admiral, I am picking up a transmission from the human fleet. They are offering to accept our surrender." Cathvar's jaw parts clicked weakly. After 164 victories, after 3 centuries of unstoppable conquest, the Volari Empire had finally met an enemy they could not defeat. "Accept," he whispered. "Accept their terms." Captain Ji-hoon commanded the human recovery fleet from his ship, the Jindo. His vessels moved through the debris field with practiced efficiency. They collected escape pods and captured the few surviving Volari ships. Each alien vessel was boarded by teams of humans in advanced combat armor. "Recovery operations proceeding smoothly," Ji-hoon reported to Earth Command. "We are taking prisoners from all surviving ships. No further resistance." The Volari survivors were stunned into submission. Warriors who had terrorized the galaxy for centuries found themselves face to face with humans who treated them not as conquering heroes, but as defeated enemies who had made a fatal mistake. In the detention area of one human ship, a group of captured Volari officers sat in silence. They had been given medical treatment for their injuries and provided with food and water. Their human captors were efficient but not cruel. "I do not understand," one of the Volari whispered to his companions. "How did primitives defeat us so completely?" "They are not primitives," replied another, his voice hollow with shock. "They never were. We were the primitives. We were the ones who did not understand what we were facing." On Earth, Admiral Hee-jin stood in her command center, watching displays that showed the complete destruction of the alien fleet. Around her, hundreds of technicians began the process of standing down from combat alert. But their work was far from over. "All stations, this is Command," Hee-jin announced. "Begin Phase 4 operations. It is time to send our message to the galaxy." Dr. Tejo worked frantically in his laboratory, preparing humanity's response to the Valari Empire. The quantum cascade transmitters that had been used as weapons were now being reconfigured for communication. The message they would send would reach every corner of Valari space at the same time. "Transmission array ready," his assistant reported. "We can broadcast on all Valari communication frequencies." "Good. Upload the tactical data from the battle. I want every Valari commander to see exactly what happened to their first Armada." The transmission that left Earth carried more than just words. It included complete tactical recordings of the battle, showing how humanity had turned their entire solar system into a trap. The Valari would see their ships being destroyed by weapons they did not understand, guided by tactics they had never encountered. Admiral Hai-Jin's voice carried across interstellar space with cold authority. "To the Valari Empire and all who serve it, you sent your first Armada to conquer Earth. Your 847 ships have been destroyed. Your admiral is dead. Your warriors are our prisoners." The message continued with devastating precision. "You believed us to be a primitive species. You were wrong. We are humanity, and we have been preparing for this day since we first detected your signals from deep space. Every building you saw, every farm, every city, all of it was designed to appear peaceful while hiding the most advanced military network ever built." President Changmin added his voice to the transmission from his office at the Blue House. "We did not seek this war. We offered you the chance to leave our system peacefully. You chose conquest instead. Now you have learned the price of that choice." The tactical data included in the transmission was devastating to Valari military doctrine. It showed how their standard attack formations could be countered, how their weapons could be neutralized, and how their supposedly invincible ships could be destroyed without leaving even debris behind. But the humans were not finished. General Yunhee activated communication arrays hidden throughout the galaxy. These installations had been placed by human exploration ships decades earlier, disguised as scientific monitoring stations. These arrays began broadcasting a different message to a different audience. To the 164 worlds. "Conquered by the Valari Empire," the message began. "This is humanity speaking. We know you are listening. We know you remember what it was like to be free." The transmission reached planets where the Valari had enslaved entire civilizations. On worlds where alien species toiled under Valari rule, hidden receivers picked up humanity's signal. "The Valari Empire is not invincible," the message continued. "Today we destroyed their first Armada without losing a single ship. Their warriors learned what happens when predators mistake sheep for prey. But we are not content with defending only ourselves." The revelation that followed would shake the foundation of Valari power throughout the galaxy. "Humanity stands ready to assist in your liberation. We have ships, weapons, and warriors who can strike anywhere in Valari space without warning. The time of your freedom is at hand." On the conquered world of Androsia Prime, the former capital of the Androrian Republic, alien prisoners working in Valari mining operations stopped their labor as hidden communicators delivered humanity's message. For the first time in decades, hope flickered in eyes that had known only despair. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On Zentari, where the Valari had systematically destroyed an entire civilization's art and culture, survivors looked up at the stars with new possibility. On Kythara, where alien scientists had been forced to develop weapons for their conquerors, researchers began to remember what it felt like to work for their own people's benefit. The psychological impact was devastating to Valari control. An empire built on the myth of invincibility suddenly found that myth shattered by a species they had never heard of until today. Back in the Sol system, Captain Boram brought her stealth ship alongside one of the captured Valari ships. Her boarding, team found Subcommander Radok in the ship's command center, staring at a display showing the complete destruction of his fleet. "You are the human commander?" Radok asked quietly. "I am," Boram replied. "Captain Boram of the Earth Defense Force. I tried to warn Admiral Kethavar that something was wrong. The patterns did not match our previous conquest, but he would not listen." Boram studied the alien officer with interest. "And what patterns did you notice?" "Your response was too calm, too organized. Most species panic when they receive our ultimatum. You did not. That should have told us you were prepared for our arrival. It should have, Boram agreed. Your empire has grown arrogant. You assumed that because you had defeated 164 civilizations, you could defeat any civilization. But those worlds were not prepared for war. We were. Raydoc looked at the tactical displays showing the scope of humanity's preparation. How long did you plan for this? 50 years, Boram answered. Since we first detected your signals and learned of your conquests, we studied every battle you fought, analyzed every tactic you used, and prepared countermeasures for all of them. And now? Now your empire faces a choice. Continue your conquests and face humanity's response, or negotiate a peaceful resolution and avoid further destruction. Farmer Jin Wu emerged from Defense Platform 7 and walked back through his rice fields. The massive weapons had been concealed once again, and the patties looked exactly as they had that morning. But now the galaxy knew the truth about Earth's defenses. Engineer So Young secured her equipment at the Busan communication towers and headed home to her family. The quantum pulse cannons were hidden once more, but their effectiveness had been demonstrated beyond any doubt. Teacher Wu Jin reopened Dongsan Elementary School and welcomed his students back from the underground shelters. The children had spent the battle in perfect safety, and now they could return to their normal lives knowing they had played a part in defending their world. The message humanity sent that day reached every corner of known space. The Valari Empire, which had seemed invincible just hours before, now faced rebellions on dozens of worlds. Their own commanders began to question orders, knowing that humanity's weapons could strike without warning. But the most important part of humanity's message was its conclusion. We are not conquerors. We are defenders. We do not seek to build an empire or rule over other species, but we will not allow aggressors to threaten peaceful civilizations. The age of unchallenged conquest is over. As the Earth rotated toward night over Korea, President Changmin addressed his people in the galaxy one final time. Today, humanity proved that even the mightiest empire, Keizo,